The next step in our evolution. More powerful, more beautiful. I think I should call him Adam.
Nothing but wit to save the world. Save the world.
Adam.
Wit saves the world.
Assemble. All right. 3, 2, 1. Adam, this is a what would we call this? Podcast after hours? This is a little late nighter for us.
This is easily the latest we've ever done it.
I think the segment of the week is After Dark, Podcast After Dark.
Adam Witt Save the World After Dark.
Insert jazz music. It's a little spooky. There's like a little light rain outside. It's dark and cloudy in my apartment.
It's a spooky movie. I mean, it makes sense to have some spooky vibes.
And maybe the first time we've ever recorded a horror movie, right? Yeah, so, okay, we got cans. I've said hey. You've said hey.
Yep.
Also, I'm Witte.
I'm Adam. Look at us,
there
man.
It is. Yeah, we're remembering. Ooh, you know what? Spoiler warning.
This early?
Heads up, team. We're talking about a movie.
No, we're doing too well. This is too early.
Yeah.
We haven't even done the synopsis.
Well, there might be some spoilers in that. The movie is called Outerspace. After a meteorite lands in the front yard of their farm, Nathan Gardner and his family find themselves battling a mutant extraterrestrial organism that infects their minds and bodies, transforming their quiet rural life into a technicolor nightmare.
Little fun fact, this is our second confirmed Lovecraft movie, because this
It's
is,
true.
in fact, based on a 1927 short story of the same name by one Howard Phillips Lovecraft.
There he is. Dang,
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard Howard Phillips
That's literally what I
before.
did 2 minutes before we hit record, was look up to see what HP stands for. I also wanted to check to see if that was his real name or if he changed it to that. Because, one, it is such a good horror name, right? Like, obviously, like, we think
Right.
of his name when it comes to horror. But even the name before that.
Like, whose real name is Lovecraft?
Interesting guy.
Interesting guy. You know, there's another interesting guy involved in this movie. It's one Nicolas Cage. Man. You know, I think when I was growing up, I wasn't a huge Nicolas Cage fan. Like, the kind of extreme way he acts, just it didn't rub me the right way for whatever reason. Modern, like, small indie film Psycho Nic Cage, I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah, it feels like it fits, and it makes you wonder, with like these indie directors getting him to be in their movies, it makes you wonder, how much of this is just natural Nic Cage, how much of this is improv, how much is put on, is it a show, like, because you're expecting a certain level from him at this point.
Sure, right. Well, like, I can say this because I've already given a spoiler warning.
Touché.
You know, there's some parts later in the movie where Nic Cage starts to lose it a little bit. And he just, you know, if it was a serious movie, you would call it overacting. But yeah, you can't tell if he's overacting or if it's like him being a crazy character like he's supposed to be, yeah.
Or is this just, because, I mean, he kind of acts the same in every movie.
Yeah, like when he ranks up to that crazy level of Nic Cage with the eyes bulging and that, it's kind of like how Samuel L. Jackson's the same in every movie, but Nic Cage is just that particular brand of psycho in it. Shotgun Cage.
Shotgun Cage. And you know, like, even at the very beginning of this movie, we see Nic Cage sitting on the front porch drinking a cup of coffee, and he makes the most ridiculous face as he picks up this cup of coffee. Like, his face is all distorted. He looks terrified and in pain, and it's just like, did the director go, okay, Nick. He
looks in pain, though. He really does.
Okay, Nick, just drink the cup of coffee, you know? And Nick's like, okay, and it's just the worst actors are the actors that you can tell are acting, right?
Right.
And again, it's that constant joke, is Nic Cage a good actor? And,
right.
But, like
Like, is he really good at selling that version of crazy? Or yeah, like, and I kept asking myself, like, Nic Cage just kind of seems like he's having fun in some parts of this movie, but again, maybe that's just kind of that weird character he always falls into.
I've never gone crazy due to weird, unexplainable colors and or creatures, much that you find in the Lovecraft mythos, but. Man, Nicolas Cage in every movie never seems like a real person.
You know what? I will say this, and I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but I think when he was like the dad at the dinner table before things started getting weird,
right?
He was goofy, but he was likable, and he felt
for sure.
I will say that scene felt like kind of real and family to me, and as soon as he started acting crazy and things started escalating, I was just like, maybe this is intentional. Maybe he was like the normal guy beforehand, and now we're gonna see him like, you know, he's obviously off his rocker for the bulk of the movie. But if you can't tell, I guess Nic Cage wins.
Nic Cage wins. Yeah.
Well, who else we got in this movie? One Tommy Chong.
Tommy Chong is in the movie,
but incredibly important character in the movie.
Yeah. I mean, arguably one of the most famous potheads in existence.
One of the two.
Let's
throw Snoop in there. Yeah, Cheech and Snoop will throw in there.
Well, then also, if you do Snoop, you've got to do Willie Nelson.
Oh, of course. Yeah, Willie Nelson's got to be in there.
So, I mean, that's probably that's the Mount Rushmore of smoking weed.
That really is. Yeah, put that on the screen right now.
I guess the last big thing we need to hit, the director of the movie, a guy named Richard Stanley. Again, not someone I'm very familiar with.
Only things I read about Richard Stanley, it sounded like he took a long hiatus from directing before he actually did this. Also, apparently he had like a close personal connection with this, because apparently his mom used to read him Lovecraft when he was a kid, and when she had cancer and was kind of declining, he would read her Lovecraft, and said that this story, The Color Out of Space, is kind of like part of who he is, you know.
Man.
Says the internet. Yeah. Cheers to you, Richard Stanley.
Yeah, shouts out to Stan the Man himself. This did win a couple of awards. It won Best Horror Film at Fantastic Fest.
Maybe we talk about this movie a little bit, Adam.
Yeah, let's go ahead and dive right in. We find out that the whole family has recently moved out to the middle of nowhere and has a farm that was Nicolas Cage's dad's farm, and they've now moved out there to take it over. Not something he ever wanted to do.
Got a bit of a business model out there too. They've got alpacas on the farm.
Which is the animals of the future, according to the Mayans.
Future.
And there are so many alpaca one-liners in the movie.
There are definitely scenes in this movie where Nic Cage like doesn't realize that the alpaca joke has been drilled into the ground, and they just beat the hell out of that horse.
The character, the daughter, is doing this ritual. A guy walks up and tells her that he's kind of surveying the land and that he is the
hydrologist. I will also, I think it's probably worth noting, she's doing this ritual, she says, kind of in an attempt to heal her mother, right? Yeah. They don't really get into much then. They moved there because she got a mastectomy.
Well, she did, yeah. Because there's a scene early on, again, in the movie where they're staying outside, and she goes, "I don't know how you still find me attractive." And he tells her that he's always been more of a leg guy anyway. And Nicolas Cage, him and his wife are going to have sex for the first time since their operation. It's a big deal. And as that's happening, there's sort of earthquake, and some weird lights start happening. We get this weird kind of purple magenta light coming from space.
No one seems to really like notice it except the kid. You know, the dog's freaking out. Jack, the little younger brother. He's like freaking out and starting to lose it. But despite the loud noise and the light, no one else in the house seems to really be able to notice it's happening. Yeah,
and they kind of don't until there's a meteor that crashes down onto Earth, and everyone then is like, "Oh, this happened."
Snaps them back. Yeah.
And so when it crashes, everyone kind of gets up. It kind of cuts immediately to the next day. And I feel like this is probably a weird thing, an attempt of an adaptation of the book. But when Nicolas Cage starts describing the light, And he says it's a color that he couldn't explain, because that's the whole Lovecraft thing.
From the little I've read about the book, I don't think they try and actually represent it as a real color, right? They say that it is not anything that has ever existed here, and has not something you could actually describe. I mean, in terms of like the visuals of the movie, which I guess we could probably talk about for a while, but I really liked how they did it. That kind of really strong neon pink.
Yeah,
thing
it's
going
definitely
on.
a lot of colors happening. Where again, even where I described it just a minute or so ago, like you've got to say 3 or 4 different colors to try to like, even get close to what it was.
Right, this pinkish, purplish, green. Yeah, it's kind of always evolving and changing. I think it gave the movie like a cool psychedelic vibe the whole way through.
For
those
sure.
strong
Definitely,
lights just showing up all the time.
Very acid trip for
Very
pretty
acid
much the entire
trip
movie.
And just not maybe not quite to this exaggerated way, but remember in Midsommar, it's just kind of so weird seeing a horror movie in broad daylight.
Oh yeah.
It was just kind of strange having scary things happen, and you get this bright psychedelic. It feels less horror scary and more like mind-bendy scary.
Which is kind of the whole H.P. Lovecraft shtick, right? Like
right.
Is like true horror and not cheap horror like jump scares and stuff like that. Like true.
For sure.
And that's the thing, again, with the color, and then we eventually will start seeing things that this meteor is having some sort of effect on Earth and the plants and everything, the fruit and the animals, and the whole thing for him is these things are happening that the human mind can't comprehend, and that's what makes people go crazy. You see these creatures or these colors that like aren't of this earth that we shouldn't be seeing, and that drives you crazy because you're trying to figure out, well, what is this,
Right. Well, I know HP did it first, but a lot of the visuals in this movie were kind of reminding me of Annihilation. That
definitely.
Natalie Portman movie. I mean, one kind of the
really
psychedelic colors, but also that idea of kind of items in nature sort of blurring together.
You get like the weird like flower deer and stuff like that.
So obviously things are a little scarier than the flower deer, but it definitely felt like there was some overlap there in the visuals for sure.
Definitely.
The kid, Jack, is just like hanging out outside the well outside the house.
He's saying he can hear things.
It's like whistling to him, and he keeps whistling back. But he's very fixated. Says he's talking to his friend in the well.
Yeah, and so a couple of nights later, there's a weird storm that ends up happening, and the weird meteor rock gets struck by lightning a bunch of times and kind of shrinks and disappears. That then is like the final effect, where we start realizing that our hydrologist, because that's his job, is he finds out that there's someone has poisoned the water hole.
Yeah, he's definitely. I still can't. Like, was he looking for trouble when he was there at the beginning, or did they just
find out that he is working for a company that the mayor's trying to do a proposal where they're going to build like a big dam, and they're gonna, I guess, kind of ship the water out to different like further places.
Yeah, and when the news was at the house, what's her name? The mayor was there too, and she said something on her way out, like, you should have sold me this property when you had the chance, or something like that. They do keep, you keep hearing conversation rumbling about just the water being sick, not just in this town, but kind of elsewhere, and the back and forth over this big dam project and the kind of fallout of that.
All of our characters, or at least of the family, start getting a little crazy.
I mean, they're sitting there watching the TV, and the wife cuts her fingers off.
Man, that scene, it's been a while since like a movie got to me, and I knew it was coming. There's certain scenes like that.
It's so obvious it's coming.
Anytime someone's messing with like a garbage disposal, and like they have their hand down there, I'm just waiting for their finger, and like it barely ever happens, but those scenes, even just talking about now, it's got me. But she's just cutting away at this carrot, and she's cutting it so fast and loose.
But she's not like kind of wholly there. She's
kind of staring off into space, if you will.
Yeah, and they've all been weird, or at least the parents mostly have been very weird. Nic Cage keeps smelling something that no one else can smell. He keeps it's just one of those things where in the movie, as soon as the meteorite's there, he keeps commenting on how much it smells and how much the smell of the meteor never went away. And no one else, a cop kind of immediately tells him, like, I don't smell anything,
and the rest of the family don't smell it either, but she cuts, like, a couple of times, but, like, slices her finger.
Yeah, not just gets her finger once, but 1, 2, 3, 4, keeps going.
Like cutting the carrot, and then she just turns and just so blasé just goes, dinner's ready, and she has her hand sticking up, and there's just fingers missing. And Jack he walked up and saw it happen, and blood squirts all over his face. He just starts screaming.
Dad?
Yeah, that scene was rough.
And, she's instantly afterwards, she's like, I don't know how it did that. Like, man, I'm so
she's
embarrassed.
Just not paying attention,
I'm so stupid. But, yeah, obviously not paying attention will do more than, just 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, yeah. Obviously some supernatural going on.
The daughter, whose name is Lavinia.
Lavinia. We haven't really talked about that. Again, it must be straight out of the book, right?
I had in my notes earlier that, like, in the beginning of the movie, I feel like they said her name, like, 5 different ways.
Yeah, well, and just the very, like, we really need to get this name in your head, because this is obviously not something you should be familiar with.
But she's now, like, hearing noises, is kind of losing it. Benny, the older brother, is losing time, and it's affecting them all in different ways. And then, like you said earlier, Jack is just, like, whistling to the well, to the man in the well the whole time.
Just kind of all day and all night just standing out there.
Yeah,
Benny keeps putting those alpacas away, feeding those alpacas, and he turns around and they're unfed. They haven't been put away.
They've been out. They're somehow out of their cages. So they're all just, and I did like that too, that they're all being affected in very different ways.
Right.
And it's not that just one person is getting it. And they're all just kind of, they even like come together and it's just like, this is happening. What do we do? So they try to make the phone call and are getting like the classic white noise and the weird, almost like Cthulhu speak, where you can't understand what's being said on the line, but it's clearly someone talking.
We kind of talked about this at the on our Kevin Bacon flick, but again, it's kind of nice to see the kids at the very least. The parents have to come around, but the kids at very least are like, there is clearly something strange and supernatural going on here.
Right.
Like, there's not that horror movie like, gosh, what's going on? They kind of get to it pretty quick.
Half the movie is just like no one believes anybody.
Right. They do have to work on the parents a little bit, but the kids at the very least are acknowledging that there's some weird stuff going on pretty early.
Yeah. When the parents get home, Nic Cage, like you said, has been getting really angry. He starts doing this sarcastic, angry voice that almost sounds like a Donald Trump impersonation.
It is. That's what I've been talking about. Where he just, it's like, are you acting? Are you over the top acting? Are you intentionally doing this? I can't really tell.
It was so weird and so over the top, and like, again, and I just couldn't stop thinking of Donald Trump.
Right. Well, they're losing their minds, right? They're supposed to be, so maybe you just talk a little wacky. Because he's getting angry a lot. Like his fruit, he's going out and seeing all this giant dope fruit he's been growing. Yeah, which is probably only giant because of this, whatever's going on to the nature outside. But he's freaking out because I guess it tastes awful.
Well, that's the thing. It looks perfect, or better than it should. But the taste of it is horrible.
Well, and the wife's freaking out too, like, I guess over work stuff.
Yeah, her internet keeps dropping, and she's not being able to do these like weird conference calls. And
hey, you know what?
There's a scene or a line that really got to me, and it's when he's doing the fruit. He starts doing like he keeps taking bites out of the fruit and then like dunking them into the trash can. Yeah. Again, so it's ridiculously over the top, but
it's good though.
He's just like, I can't believe you don't smell the smell. And the wife is like, what are you talking about? Like, what does it smell like? And he goes, it smells like death. It smells like the cancer ward. He goes, you should know that better than anybody. And that's when it really solidified me.
Brutal.
Yeah, that was just, oh man, this family is lost it. But that line of, you should know this better than anybody, to the recovering cancer patient, like, What a thing to say.
When the kids are definitely starting to lose it a little bit too. It seems to be a little slower. The movie does keep pointing out kind of anytime someone has like a sip of water or anytime someone's in the shower.
Yeah, because at this point we're told that the water is contaminated. Ward goes to tell the mayor, and the mayor's just basically, we don't get the conversation, but he walks out, and it's obviously like, oh yeah, nothing's gonna happen. Like,
right, and again, it's very like background noise in the movie, but there's like conversations going on where clearly like something going wrong with the water is like screwing up this dam's development, and they're just kind of brushing it aside because they're trying to get their money.
Yeah. Now start getting into that part in the movie where everyone's trying to figure out how to like deal with this their own way, you know. Lavinia, the daughter, she decided to go the blood magic route and starts.
As you will.
It starts off kind of simple. She does a little rune and everything. Then she kind of does a cut, but it may be a little too deep. And then she starts carving runes into her body for protection.
I didn't really love that. And I mean, she's got the same kind of droned out look on her face that her mom has, right?
Yeah, that maybe she doesn't know what she's doing.
Yeah. The movie has been weird up to this point, but absolute biggest bass drop right around the old corner.
Yeah.
Because the mom comes out. She sees that the two boys have walked down into the barn, and the mom comes out looking for the son. They're kind of freaked out. Does the dog make a noise at him, or is it just the alpacas?
Well, they think that they're looking for the dog because the dog has disappeared.
Right.
And so they decide what they're going to do. They're looking in there. They see the alpaca, and then the light starts coming for them. That light we keep seeing has now kind of like solidified. We also have this weird like flying or like praying mantis creature that keeps kind of hanging around.
Yeah, the kids saw it kind of climb out of the well earlier in the movie, and like it looks like a praying mantis, but the longer the camera's on it, it's like growing weird extra things.
Yeah, it's kind of moving a little too weird. It's that same color that we keep seeing.
Yeah, and anytime there's like that color, they're clearly just kind of showing you like this is like the influence of whatever that thing is, right? Like they shine that light on Nic Cage at some point, and they kind of imply like this is making him crazier or wackier or whatever.
Yeah, I think you kind of see it in his eyes, kind of maybe.
Yeah. And you start seeing it in everyone's eyes, like just tiny little flickers of it here and there. Pink. Yeah.
Like you said, the mom comes out. She sees them down there. Sees the light coming for them. Jack keeps falling. Benny's trying his best to help, but he just kind of eventually decides he's going to get out of there.
Helpless kid, come on.
The mom runs down and does the classic shield the child from the danger.
Right, the hug.
Man,
like we know that this pink light like merges things.
Kind of. Like you said, I don't know. Other than I think Ward sees some weird rats and cats and stuff that have joined together in the back of the cop's truck.
That's even later in the movie, I think. So maybe we haven't seen that super outright. I guess we just know that the pink light is at the very least mutating things.
Yeah.
Doing something to them.
So the mom and Jack get bathed in this light. And we just hear them screaming. And
gargling more than screaming, maybe.
Yeah,
it's so not good. They just embrace in a hug right before the light hits, and when before you even see him, you just see the son and Nic Cage, and both of them are just like, holy shit!
Yeah,
like they
jaws dropped.
Yeah,
and so
both of them literally say holy shit right after each other. I think.
Yeah, and so it cuts to them like bringing the mom, and it makes you kind of think that maybe the son is dead. It's just the mom because that's all you hear in the beginning. And so they lay the mom down on the couch, and Lavinia walks in, and she's all carved up and everything with the runes like carved into her chest. And the first line she says is, "They've been re-assimilated."
Re-assimilated, yeah.
Son and mother have rejoined because the son has come from her.
God, it's so messed up. Yeah, they're just laying on the couch, and they are just like a pile of flesh.
Yeah, like the sun is kind of coming out of her back a little bit. Like
they're both clearly in like
horrible, excruciating pain.
Yeah, like not really speaking as much as just kind of seizing on the couch.
There's a lot of wheezing, a lot of like screaming,
and also like Lavinia, she kind of freaks out as you should, but Nic Cage is he's almost mad about it, right? Like he's clearly off his rocker, right? Because he's not just
very
not
much
freaking out, but he's like, get her
bothered
upstairs, let's go. Like this is what we're doing now.
The way they carry her upstairs, they just wrap her up in a blanket and just drag her up the don't as they're going up the stairs and lock her into the attic. You find out that the sunlight is hurting them. I guess we'll call them at this point.
Yeah, because they, at first they are just, again, like this weird kind of merged pile of flesh. But the longer that they're there, they're
becoming something else.
Yeah, their skin's just getting kind of paler and whiter, and like, yeah, they're starting to have that weird skin effect that they zoomed in on the alpacas earlier. So yeah, getting weird.
This is when we get screaming Nic Cage with a shotgun.
So they've got the wife upstairs in like the attic or whatever, and you just hear the alpaca screaming.
Yeah, that's it.
And Nic Cage, he's just over it. He gets the shotgun and just says, "Not anymore. We're done."
Yeah,
and goes out there and shows that weird mass of like 8 alpacas melted together, really fucked up. They're all just screaming and yelling, and I hate it. Hated it.
I have in my notes, no animals are harmed in the making of this film.
Yeah, right. God. And Shotgun Cage just starts losing it. He's just shooting all of the heads over and over and over.
I mean, we've all seen Hercules. We know how you got to handle this.
Yeah, got to get rid of that Hydra somehow. God.
If he comes back in, covered in blood and whatever, he tells Lavinia that she needs to leave. And Lavinia goes, "What are you going to do?" And he goes, "Handle it." Closes the door on her.
Both kids, are forced out of there. The son seems, I guess both of them seem pretty accepting of it. Like, they look down at the mom and, she looks like she doesn't want to live. Yeah. The son is just kind of like a tumor at this point.
Right?
Yeah, they kind of don't try. He's just back there, like, occasionally, like, squealing or something. But for the most part, they keep saying that, he was kind of sticking out halfway when it started, but that he's like merging more and more with her.
Very nature is healing.
Yeah. So she's clearly in charge.
He puts a shotgun to her head. You think that he's going to just end it. Somehow takes an even weirder route and decides to start making out with. And like the movie shows this weird pink spit on both their lips, but like her skin is coming off.
It's not good.
Like,
it's not good, but like it's Nic Cage really doing his job because he goes in for one kiss and he kind of comes back and he's like, why not one more?
That's
and
pretty good.
He goes back for it. It's good.
We cut to Benny. He starts hearing something in the well and decides, for whatever reason, it's a good idea to climb down the well.
Climbing in this well that your younger brother was talking to earlier just seems like a bad call. I think your dog would want you to get out of there.
Yeah, probably go ahead and go. Fido is over it. He gets about halfway, and then all of a sudden the light starts coming out of the well. So he's trying to outclimb it, but as anybody knows from any well scene of any movie and or TV show, it's slippery, man. You're not climbing out of that thing.
No, not climbing out when there's supernatural pink light. Baiting you half the way up.
He pulls something out of his pocket, which is, in the very beginning of the movie, they show that in the grandfather's shed, which again is the grandfather's farm, he found a pair of old-timey, like, steampunk goggles. So he takes the goggles out and puts them on. I immediately thought that these goggles were going to help him in some way.
Yeah, they never really do anything
they don't
with that.
Seem to
which
have
again,
helped at all.
That must be... My guess would be that in the book he puts those on and it's like a emotional moment that he's got his
I see everything.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, like I expected that he was going to have like somehow not been like hypnotized by the light or something, and that he'd come out in the back scene and save his sister.
We also don't know
the
light. Is it necessarily that if you see it that it's doing? Because it just touched the mom. She wasn't. Yeah,
I don't think it's actually a see it thing, but I guess I was just like, all right, I guess we're gonna try and do something.
I mean, I guess if I didn't have anything else, if I had anything in my pocket, I'd probably do anything I could.
You try
in a situation. Why not?
But yeah, there's never really like a circle back to that ever of like, do we know if Benny made it or whatever? Like, I think Nic Cage, when he's full on crazy later, says something like he lives in the well now.
Yeah. I guess after this weird like sexy time with his demon wife that he's just full on overboard. We're crazy now.
He loves her. It's his woman. You
yeah.
know? And he doesn't really care that his son seems to have been sucked into this light. He's really just pissed that his daughter's not inside helping him.
She's not helping.
He's not helping him around the house.
You know, she tried to leave. Her horse is kind of like slowly demoning out. So
yeah, it got out of there a long time ago.
And so when she comes back inside, Nicolas Cage is basically like, I need you to feed your mother. And she was like, please, Daddy, no.
Man. And I think at this point, she probably thought her mom was supposed to be dead, right?
Yeah.
Thought the dad
he walked in there with the shotgun.
You know, handling it. Holy shit, he did not handle it.
No, and I don't know what he did to that already poor woman. But now she's like this weird kind of like spider mom-son hybrid creature thing.
It's like she got some extra limbs from the kid, and she's using them.
Yeah, she's really taking advantage of all the new appendages that she has.
All those extra parts.
Yeah, and so Ward and the sheriff show back up at the house.
Nic Cage is very kind to greet the sheriff and Ward at the door.
Yeah, and that's when you see his face has kind of got the lights in it now. It's not just his eyes. Like, he has been fully taken over. Kind of invites them to sit down with the family. They're all watching TV, and there's no one there.
No one's actually in the room. He's like, we're a family. We stick together. And just points to the empty couch.
And so you start hearing screaming upstairs, the sheriff and Ward run upstairs and realize that the attic door has been locked shut.
Yeah, but that sheriff's got a hell of a shoulder on him.
That's one thing that bothered me. He has a gun. You expect him to shoot the lock and bust it open. He just busts open through that chained, locked door. I mean, like, there's so many things that obviously can't happen in the real world. That's the one thing that really got to me. I'm like, all these outer-worldly things that are happening. You got spider mom-son re-assimilation in the bedroom. You've got, like, weird praying mantis light that's doing whatever it's doing. This dude busted through a chained door.
At the time, you're not very concerned about the door because there's a giant spider mom thing trying to eat Lavinia.
Yeah.
And the sheriff rolled into the house with a shotgun. For 2 seconds, the movie convinces you that the sheriff shot the mother in the face.
Yeah.
But it's actually Nic Cage. He says, they're not my family.
Nic Cage, he comes back in. He's starting to get it. Finally comes in, finishes what he was going to start before he, got a little mouth action earlier.
Shoots the mom in the face. Pretty good head
saves the
explode
daughter
there. Yeah, and then does do the mercy shot on Jack, on the kid.
Yeah.
Still hanging out of his mom's
just
back or something. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. You kind of think this is the end of the movie, right? Lavinia is coming downstairs, is saying like, thank you for coming to save me. You walk out. The sheriff is the last one to leave. He's just kind of like calling in whatever just happened. Nic Cage, like, he sees the light coming and the praying mantis thing coming at them. And so he gets his shotgun up, and Ward and Lavinia and all of them see it. Well, when the cop walks outside, the sheriff, he just sees that Nicolas Cage is pointing a shotgun towards Ward's direction, shoots Nicolas Cage.
Boom.
So
Nicolas Cage has, since the sheriff showed up, seemed like a guy that might shoot any of them at any point.
He has been pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And to be fair, he has shot 2 people since the sheriff was there.
He was blood-soaked when he answered the door.
Yeah. Lavinia says that she's not going to leave her dad, that the family needs to stick together, which is all the dad has wanted the entire thing, and is the opposite of what she wanted.
She says something like, I live here, I can't leave. Again, she's clearly a
not
little
there.
Wacky, too. Yeah.
The sheriff and Ward decide they're going to go check on Ezra, and Ezra is not doing well.
No, he is like a hollowed-out corpse. Kind of a spoken word message of like this thing came from another world and it's like turning our world into something that it recognizes. Again, very Annihilation.
Very much in this. And again, like the way the earth is, or the area that it's affected is being changed almost identical.
And kind of, I think this is something that the audience is probably somewhat aware of at this point, but basically informs Ward and the rest of the audience, like, it's in the water, it's everywhere, like the world is gonna have to deal with this at some point. Yeah. They also have what seemed to me like a really bad cut where the Tommy Chong's like glowing pink, and they do like we gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
And then they cut to outside, and they're like already like kind of jogging. I don't know. It just felt like this really awkward kind of cut from like we gotta go to like we're just kind of full jogging out in the woods. And then immediately, like as soon as they cut, they don't even give them like 10 seconds of them just running through the woods to show you like, you know, for you to lower your guard or whatever. But some sort of hook hand comes out of the sky and just rips the sheriff up into the air.
Yeah, it was so fast. You just hear the classic, whoa!
Ward looks up, and the tree got him. The trees are coming to life now.
This is when it turned. It's been pretty much an acid trip. This is when we start peaking. Like they even have the scene where he falls on the grass, and the grass is starting to like take him.
Well, like, yeah, and I feel like that's just a Lovecraft thing, is like tentacles everywhere.
Yeah.
Like they zoom in on the grass, and like kind of the micro of everything is slowly turning into, you know, it's like this idea that everything's blending together, but when you zoom in, it's kind of just these tiny tentacles grabbing hold of everything and mashing it up.
That's kind of the end. We do get like a little bit of a time jump. We now see Ward, you know, and time has passed. The dam's been built. And the water plant is all there. But he kind of has that classic Lovecraft detective look. He's got a scarf and the big overcoat and everything.
Like, how much are they trying to age him up?
Well, he's got a beard to signify time has passed.
He's got like a graying beard. And I'm like, this dude looks like a kid.
Yeah.
Like, you know? Not young enough to maybe have a relationship with Lavinia,
child,
but pretty young himself.
Yeah, he's got a scarf. He's old enough to smoke cigarettes.
Mm-hmm. And then he's just standing on that dam, saying he'll never drink the water.
Yeah, and
because they show Lavinia kind of evaporate, and there's like a big pink light coming out of the well.
Yeah,
and like a big burst of light. Like I think Tommy Chong's message implied that like it had been gaining power and becoming strong, and there's like this big burst, but then it just shows Ward kind of like climbing out of like white ruined earth, right? Like it's like all the life and all the substances.
It basically did like a weird. Like it almost looked like a volcano eruption, or like an atom bomb, and like
it was just all white ash, like everything had just been reduced to nothing. But it seemed to imply that it left whatever it is, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that's the big question mark of the movie or of the ending or whatever. But it, you know, after all that talk from Tommy Chong's recording of it being like this thing that everyone's gonna have to worry about kind of longer term. And something that's going to impact the whole community, just kind of left.
Yeah, and that's part of the way the short story ends. They kind of reflect on it and everything. And so when they try to leave the house, it says that the horror blights the land and then flies into the sky. Pierce alone turns back after the color is gone. He witnesses a small part of it try to follow the rest, only to fail and return to the well. And that's what happens at the end of the movie. We see that little praying mantis kind of crawls back into the well. And so it's the idea that even though everything is gone, part of it still resides. And so that's one of the last lines, and the way it kind of sums it up is that the knowledge that part of the alien still resides on Earth is sufficient to disturb his mental state.
Right, and he says, like, you know, everything seems normal, no one's sick,
but
or
only he knows
or whatever.
What happened.
And there's, I guess it's kind of very loosely implied that it's kind of covered up to some degree so that dam project, you know, he's standing on the dam, so the implication is that it's been done. He's standing on the property where that house used to be, and he says something like, I hope the water runs deep, but I'll never drink it.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
The movie ends, you know, with that monologue, and it kind of leads to, so there's going to be a trilogy. It's been announced. This director is writing a trilogy of these, almost like an anthology of sorts of the short stories. The next one being the Dunwich Horror.
Is this an anthology?
I wonder if Ward becomes this like detective that is now like ever following this weird happenings, you know.
Right. He's our Nick Fury, uniting the Cthulhu families. Maybe Benny has become something greater. Maybe Lavinia has become something greater.
It's true.
You know?
And maybe they pop up every time this thing pops up. Maybe that's like a weird connector.
You know, it wouldn't be that crazy to see her as like the Silver Surfer to his Galactus. Well, Adam, I mean, this kind of begs a pretty important question I've been meaning to ask you.
Yeah.
What did you think of the movie?
So, I really enjoyed the movie. It was weird. You know, it had some spooky parts. It had some really disgusting parts. But all in all, I really thought they did a good job. It felt, again, not having read this, but just kind of, you know, knowing Lovecraft and I guess what you would call pop culture and you know, having read some of the short stories and also just being a fan of, like, horror in general. It felt like a good adaptation of something that, again, would be hard to do just simply because most of the stuff being described are things that we're not supposed to be able to describe.
Yeah, I totally enjoyed the movie. I dug that it was, I mean, it certainly was far from like a kind of standard classic, we're just churning out horror movies. It definitely had its own unique vibe and flavor to it. I liked all the psychedelic stuff, like just kind of the camera tricks. Like at the end, Ward is like moving his hands around and like it's kind of blurring in the background a little bit. I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know much about the movie other than the trailer, but I was not expecting like it went from psychedelic to body horror, and I was not expecting that. It just ramped up and up and up. I mean, God, the mom and the son, like I saw them hug, I saw the light, and I was just like, no.
You had to assume with those screams what was going to happen. Yeah.
They're not gonna. And then you just see the camera hang on their faces. By the time you see the alpacas, you think you're like kind of numb to the body horror. But God, yeah, no, totally enjoyed it. What a weird off-the-wall movie. But again, like I kind of led onto this earlier, but I really enjoy small film crazy Nic Cage. He's really just fun to watch. Well, I hope he does move forward with these other Lovecraft's movies.
I'm really excited to see if he's able to do the trilogy. You know, again, I don't expect that Spectre Vision was hoping for a huge return, and especially since it won the awards that it did, this may be one of those movies that, like, in a few years ends up finally finding its footing, you know?
Right. I mean, I could totally see this being like a weird cult favorite or something. Man, I really enjoyed it. I'd say out of the movies we've reviewed so far, definitely towards the top of the list for me. Just not a perfect movie, but really interesting.
So,
man, what a hit. What a great movie. Adam, it's late. I might go to bed.
We need to come up with some sort of bit to end the podcast.
I think we got to check that box. The people are waiting for it.
People are waiting. They don't know when it's going to come.
They don't know when it's going to come, but it is coming.
So how do you want to do it? What do you want to do? What should we do? What are you thinking?
Play me out. Play me out, boss.
The next step in our evolution. More powerful, more beautiful. I think I should call him Adam.
Nothing but wit to save the world. Save the world.
Adam.